Hey people, hope everybody's good. It's Robin here from Hebden House, and in today's episode we are looking at part 2 of the van rack out series for my day job as a plasterer. So if you're new to the channel or you've just randomly found us and are not a regular, then like I say, I have a day job as a plasterer and recently bought a Ford Transit Custom to get all our products and materials and tools in. The van was totally empty in the back in the loading bay, so that is great. It means we can just start from scratch and customise it and rack it out exactly how we want it to our own specifications. So like I say, there was a part 1, go back and watch that and that'll get you caught up. But just as a quick summary, we basically made a false floor or like a raised floor so we could slide sheet materials on long lengths of timber underneath without interfering with any other part of the van. If you're familiar with the trade, then we do deal with large plaster boards, so 2400mm boards or 2400mm boards of ply that we quite often use, or if we're doing stud work we need lots of lengths of wood to create the stud and anything else beading, things like that. Then yeah, having like an independent space that we can slide stuff in and out without it interfering with the rest of the racking or any other bits and bobs that we have in the van was something that I really thought about. I've done jobs with plenty of other builders and plasterers, and quite often they're muddling those things in, trying to push things out the way to get the boards in because they are large and cumbersome. So the idea to have this independent space at the bottom was something that I thought would be a bit of a game changer in terms of like actually maximising the space in the van and just the usefulness and productivity. So if you want to go back and watch episode 1, then that's going to show you the start, and today we're looking at the racking that's going to go on top of that for like all your other tools and bits and bobs that you have on the job. So in terms of the racking and the layout, and the idea is that we're going to have some what I'm going to call vertical racking here. So we've got like longer, taller stuff that can slide in and out this way through the side door. Maybe even have a little partition here so you can slide one thing in here and then another thing in the top. And then I'm going to have more of what you'd call like the traditional horizontal racking along this back wall here. So first we're going to look at the vertical racking, what we're going to fit in there, and then we'll concentrate on the more traditional horizontal racking afterwards. So I've just roughly mapped out the area that we've got to work in for this vertical racking, and so in terms of height we're looking at 1200mm or like 1.2 metres, and then lengthways, i.e. from the back of the van to the side door, we're looking at 1.55 metres. So yeah, I'm going to put things in this space and see what works, and yeah, see what can go with what in terms of maybe using it on 2 levels and things like that. So just to show you here the example, I've laid these down. This is a great example of how I want this to work. So if you imagine this was upright and vertical, then we can slide this table in on one level, and then we could put a little partition in and slide these sawhorse legs in on the next level. It's using all that vertical height in the van, which is great because sometimes that is lost space, and it just means these thinner things can just slide in and out in their own little independent places and just live somewhere without them just sort of rattling about the van. Now, unbelievably, this is all fitting perfectly as well. So this was an idea I had in my head. I hadn't done any measurements before this morning, but just out of pure luck, this all fits again. So we've got the step up, we can have a little partition, then you can stick the 2 ladders. You can probably even put a partition between them because they're a little bit thinner than the step up when placed on top of each other. So it means if you want to get one ladder out, you can just slide that out without having to move the other one. So one thing I've definitely learned from looking at other people's videos is just to partition stuff up as much as possible, and then each thing has got its own itemised space, like I say, and it just means getting it in and out is hassle free. And it means if you need one light, you can just put one light out without interfering with another light, the ladder and the step up. So in terms of this space, yeah, lucky accident I think really, because I didn't think it would fit in this well, but it clearly does. So once we've looked at sorting out the vertical racking, then we need to start looking at horizontal racking. And one of the main things that I need to organise and make sure everything has a space for is all my toolboxes and all my organisational boxes. So you can see here I've got a selection of the Stanley Fat Max boxes, which are great for just having little individual spaces for all your fixings. So we've got ones for wood screws here. I've got one that's got all my brad nails in and my plasterboard screws, and then I've got another one that's got all my wall plugs in. So these stack brilliantly and do clip into one another, but I think what we're going to try and do is just make individual spaces for them in a vertical rack going up this way, but then placed horizontally, and then they can just slide in and out as and when you need them. So we've got these 3 Fat Max ones here. And then also, I'm a Bosch man, so married into the Bosch 18-volt system. I've got this Sortimo set. So Sortimo do a lot of van racking, but they do these boxes for Bosch. So again, these can all clip into one another. But again, we'll be doing it in a system where they are just stacked on top of one another with dividings in between, or shelves in between, so you can just pull everything out. So we've got the SDS drill, we've got the impact and the combi, and then this bottom one's got some of the larger things, like my circular saw, all the chargers, stud finder, jig, multi-tool, and then it's got space if I ever want to get another angle grinder or anything like that. And then the last thing that I want to try and get in this that doesn't necessarily fit exactly is the Hikoki second fix nailer. We do quite a lot of architraves, skirting, things like that. So this is great for just quickly nailing wood into just making it into fixings. And so the build begins, as the caption says, and just a quick apology about that horrible transition between the two bits of video. I'm still new at this, so getting that editing smooth and seamless is still new to me, so I'm just going to ramble and commentate over the top of it instead. So what you can see I'm doing here is I've just got my first partition shelf, and if you're not familiar with the little bit of hardware I'm using, it's a pocket hole jig. And when I was doing my research for the best way to secure all the shelves, then Spencer Lewis has got a channel, Insider Carpentry, and he suggested using these. He's a carpenter, so you know, in terms of where to get your best advice, if you're building stuff out of wood, then probably a carpenter's the best person to take that advice from. And I did see a lot of videos where people are using angle brackets, and there seem to be a lot of negatives about that because they generally sort of shake loose over time, or the brackets break. And if you think about the amount of weight that you're putting on these things, then it is likely that the shelves are going to be put under a lot of stress, really. So anyway, you can see me just marking everything up here and just trying to get it as level as possible, which isn't particularly easy in a vehicle which doesn't have a level floor, or you're not on a level street. But yeah, just marking up and trying to get it as plumb as I can, and then yeah, just drilling everything in and seeing how it looks. So this actually shows you quite nicely without that sidewall how it's all going to fit on. So we've got the ladder sliding down at the bottom there. This is the partition, so the second ladder's going to go in. Step up just sits nicely on there, and then we've just made that third one, the Defender there, just on a nice shelf. And then what we're going to do is actually going to put a partition here and then just make that bit so these just don't go too far back. But yeah, it's kind of nice looking at it like that. You can see how that's all working in terms of shelving. It's coffee break time. I love an oat biscuit with a chocolate top, cup of coffee, my favourite Yorkshire mug. The guys have stopped felling trees over the river now, so it's much more tranquil and quiet. Says the man who's been sawing wood all afternoon. They're noisier than me though. Right, let's get on. So I'll show you where we're up to on the next stage of this little vertical racking bit. And again, the design has been changed and tweaked. So originally we were just going to have the Defender here, with this coming out behind it, the spot, like so. That seemed like an awful waste of space, so just simply widened this hole here. This is just to keep this up until we screw it in, and then I can fit the sawhorse on the same level. And then it does mean we've got a little empty space here that I'm not sure what to do with, because the workbench won't fit in there, and then we're just going to make the workbench a little smaller area here, and then use above it to like hang stuff on, and I'll make some other racking just on the side of this panel. But it is getting there. It's a slow process as things get tweaked, and just a lot of repetitive cutting. Right, last bit's going in for today. This is just a little small bit, so we've sort of improvised here, and just again, the way we're doing this has slightly changed. But yeah, just adding in a little small bit to get the workbench in, and then the idea would be after that is the back of this and the back of this are going to be used to hang stuff up. So just anything that needs just hanging up, so you can just quickly grab it off the back of this. But yeah, I think just maybe not doing this up here and like limiting all this space. But yeah, just making this tiny little bit just to fit this last little thing in, and then all that vertical racking is done, which is pretty cool.